What's up, guys? This is Jungleman. I decided to get into the hand commentary side of making content and go over some of the biggest hands that are on the internet, as well as involving some of the biggest names in poker. I want to preface this all by saying, I know you guys watch all sorts of hand commentators and all of that. I believe that my commentating will be some of the highest quality in terms of strategy, at least. Hopefully in entertainment and in other ways, hopefully in production, which is not my strongest point, but I've seen a lot of what's out there and I disagree. And I think that my reputation in poker precedes itself. I've played the highest stakes against the best players in the world at every game. If you search enough, you can find that out. All right, so let's get into this. It starts off with a bit of an awkward reading of the hand. So a player raises. It doesn't really show this in the recording, but a player raises, and then it's to Rampage in the small line, who re-raises ace-7 of clubs. Sure, that's fine. You can kind of justify this with anything. And then hands in the big blind, just cold calls. It doesn't show the stack sizes. It's kind of important, but if I was hands, I'd just 4-bet it basically every time. Like, dude, you got fucking queens in the big blind against whatever the fuck Rampage has. He can have all kinds of things, and you got queens, bro. Here's a great spot to 4-bet, but call's okay. I'm open-minded. I just don't really like this whole, I just think it plays way better if you 4-bet and you really want value hands when you 4-bet. Okay, so this Pavlov dude calls with king 8 offsuit. He's like under the gun as the straddle or something. Yeah, so he must have raised and he calls. So that's a mistake no matter what the action is. It says under the gun is straddle. Okay, so he's got an interesting hand now because he actually has the blockers for straight draws, which can be very good bluffs, and he has a blocker to a diamond draw. Machine really likes some of these bluffs, so you can definitely justify doing some stuff with it. It is a mistake pre-flop pretty much no matter the action. The reason being everyone's ranges are just too fucking strong and your hand just blows. That's the short answer. The longer answer is way more complicated, but for all your intents and purposes, basically the equity gets squeezed too much by too strong ranges, and you just don't have enough plat odds by hitting your king or your 8. And he is in position, it looks like. That seems like you could justify it, but not really. The positional advantage of no limit hold'em is not extremely large. It is large, but it's not large enough that we're gonna find ways of getting enough value when we hit a king, people have queens or whatever. And as you can see with the way these hands play out, it's not gonna look too, there's just not a whole lot of fortuitous situations, and he's gonna fuck himself bluffing on this queen jack 10 board where people have huge hands as well. All right, so he decides to bet. Fine. I mean, what the fuck else does he want to bet with if he's not gonna pick this hand? And now Rampage check raises. Okay, all right, that's spicy, but sure, I guess this is definitely in like the Spiceville category of things. It's very aggressive. It's a play with lots of heart, because both hands and Pavlov can have real shit here, and Pavlov probably isn't taking too many stabs, and hands can totally have like pocket 10s of jacks or queens, as he does. Like, clearly he can have pocket jacks or 10s. He's not fully fucking pocket jacks of 10s. He can also have 8-9 suited actually, or jack 10, and he could have like king queen. He could have like ace queen, which is probably gonna fold pretty soon, if not straight away. Now his hand looks incredibly strong. Usually people always 4-bet ace king, although you could also cold call ace king pre-flop. That is justifiable and just one of the nodes that people don't really take. I actually don't mind that play that much, just because no one ever puts people on ace king there, and I don't think that 4-betting it all the time is really as valuable as what people think. So Rampage turns a flush draw, and at this point, I think with the combo that he has, his bluff on the flop is likely minus EV, to be honest, or like highly suspect, but now it becomes pretty clear barrel off and maybe even plus EV in practice. So now I think we're in the reasonable range, the reasonable territory. If I was Rampage, this would be the green light from the poker gods to go with it, because he now has the obscure draw that he's not really supposed to have, and it's a good draw. And like, if he's not gonna pick this bluff, what else is he gonna pick? He doesn't block diamond draws that are gonna fold. There's just lots of good things going on, and diamond draws are part of the range where hands is 100% to fold. He can have 10-9 of diamonds. He can have king 10 of diamonds, I guess. He can have ace 10 of diamonds. Why the fuck not? No, he can't really have king 9 of diamonds. He can have 8-9 of diamonds, which if I had 8-9 of diamonds, I would be going nowhere. One thing I'd be thinking of in hand shoes is that Rampage is very polar, and when people are very polar, we want to consider very strongly really the nature of the way that they tend to bluff, and the fact that it's a really big game on TV, because sometimes that can mean that people are wildly over bluffing, as is suggested here, because he's basically saying he has like ace fucking king or nothing, right? Like, what else does he have? Or he has the obscure king 9 or the 8-9s suited, which are rare plays also. So yeah, he could have lots of ace kings. Now he has to take these sorts of lines with them. He bets a turn, and now he gets to the river, and the pot's 500k. He can do whatever the fuck. He probably should just jam all in and then put jack 10 suited and queen jack suited, I guess, if he has that, into a really annoying situation. If I was Rampage right now, I'd be somewhat shitting my pants, only because I would 100% bluff this hand. Specifically this, I'd just jack it in. Like, this is like a dream bluff hand. He actually had the most justifiable bluff. I never saw this hand. I actually thought the action was a little bit different. I was 100% to go all in here. No, he does bet all in. Okay. All right. Fair enough. It's a scary spot because hands has loads of hands that can... He's got a lot of hands for a guy named Hands. He actually has a big hand too. A lot of hands that do not want to fold, such as this hand. So he has to bluff into like sets and straights, some busted flush draws. I guess hands can have like ace 9 of diamonds. Really, I guess I would still dust it off. The only issue is it's more of one of these spots where I'd be thinking to myself that I wouldn't have very many bluffs because of the fact that this guy's range is so damn strong. And if you have too many bluffs here, you just get fucked out of this planet, especially if you have the reputation of running big bluffs, which I believe Rampage is known to be a bit aggressive. He's a content creator also, but he's got quite a lot of heart. I gotta give him that. Did play me a heads up, which a lot of these guys that play, they're weak type bitches and are unwilling to put their money where their mouth is. Clearly, Rampage has got a lot of heart over the checker is and blast off into this board. At least you can have the confidence that this is now a great combo to bluff the flops. Like, I could see the machine justifying this shit. The machine does some crazy stuff. Yeah, bluffing into a range that includes lots of sets and straights where you rip ace king is a bit scary, but it worked. The guy folded inside a queen, so now the bluff's printing. And of course, he whips it in his face, which is important to note, because if someone whips the bluff in their face in a huge pot, guess what they don't have when there's some kind of obscure action? There's an all-in for $1 million fucking dollars, and they don't show. They have it. So that's important for you guys to note, because now you can see that you can tell very strongly if someone has it or not. I mean, this is one of the tells. Usually people give a lot of information about what they have later on, or you can infer with high frequency whether they have the nuts or not. Anyway, so hats off to Rampage. That was one of the craziest bluffs I've seen in a while. Makes lots of sense. The flop play is ambitious, but maybe that's great against this other guy who might bet fold ace king, or not ace king, ace queen. I could see that happening, or bet folding some hand that we're just having a wider range than he should, so that's a really weird situation. And another thing that's weird about this spot is if the other guy doesn't believe you, he could theoretically call you with like any single hand. He could call you with like ace jack suited. He could call you with king jack suited, because you're saying you have ace king or nothing effectively. It's not like people play a set of queens this way, right? It's scary, especially for that reason. That being said, it's hard to give Rampage really a range and the spice. Like to listen to this commentary and see what he's thinking and feeling as he's doing this.
Just thank God he folded. It would have been like really bad, like if he was tanking, and I'm just like, it's gonna be pretty rough to be buried $1 million, like 3 hours, 2 hours into the stream. We have a whole night, but luckily he folded and got really lucky, and I tried to punt, all right? I tried to punt. All the people that bought action, I tried to punt.
Confirmed he tried to punt. I think it's all like fairly reasonable category. It's like slightly unreasonable at worst, actually. The machine does occasionally have these obscure bluffs in a lot of spots. When I say the machine, by the way, guys, I'm referring to the GTO machine, the hypothetical dream machine that plays perfectly. It would have like either check fold or like do this, 20% of the time, partly to show with some random 6 shit on some runouts where it had a diamond run off and it was impossible to bluff otherwise. Find 8-7 of clubs instead. Turns out this guy is human. He was wasn't like an absolute machine. It was like, yeah, I'm gonna reload for 1 fucking million more, dust off a nice stack. Almost no one would do. But that would actually be what you'd want to do if you're playing in this kind of game, and just not say it. Just like be like, hi, you know, it's a decent bluff, and supposed to do it like 20% of the time, which no one ever said ever in a $1 million cash game for multiple reasons. One of which is that there are no wealth of high stakes nerds that already dust off their chips. Hello, I'm one of them in the Hustler Casino $1 million buy-in. One of these days I'm going to get to play, by the way, and there's a decent chance a bluff will be made. I mean, they know that too. It's part of the thing. Anyway, bluffs will be made at some point. I can promise that. I'm not one of these guys that pretends never to bluff. We already, the cat's out of the bag. The jungle cat's out of the bag. Anyway, so itching to play. Well played, Rampage. Deserve it. Real as fuck content creator, not one of these fake plastic bros that like pretend to be cool or whatever, but he's actually got a shitload of heart and succeeded. Yeah, well deserved, actually. And seems like a nice guy in poker. One funny thing I'd like to add is that I read this in Doyle Brunson's book, is that after about the stake of 5,100, where the best in the world were battling it out a $10,000 buy-in or whatever, the games got a little easier, which I guess you could say makes some sort of sense. At some point, the battle's a little bit psychological in that it's kind of like, how strong is your resolution and commitment to the truth? I think this is symbolic in the real world as well, because I could see how once the stakes get very high for money, it's hard for people to retain that rational strength and that logic with how they're playing. And you get more people that have just happened to find some kind of aberration that led them to being very rich. At least in the case of poker, got really rich for something else and have decided they want to play high stakes poker. And there's just not a lot of people that can get in there out of pure grinding up their roll, getting in there. You have to have a little something else to get in these sorts of situations usually. And it's not usually based off of pure poker strength. Not to mention in poker, people don't really want to play with people that are really, really good. That's something where things are a little bit different in the real world. People do want to hang out with people who are incredibly competent at what they do. So my metaphor doesn't perfectly work out. In the real world, there's loads of situations where people are incredibly competent, like in business and beyond. But there's loads of room for improvement in poker and in other things. As we may have seen, straight away someone made a pretty basic mistake. And if you watch the stream, there's loads of other mistakes and potentials to be had. Poker's not dead, everyone. There's $1 million cash games going on, ace-7 of clubs bluffs that some people might find suspect, but actually I'm sort of a fan of. Congrats, Rampage. You deserved it.